So the evolution of the soul is what it's all about. And once we can not have to come back, then that's up to us. But the life we lead now helps us to where we go back to. The afterlife is not one great big open barn somewhere. It's many different levels and many different spheres within each level. And where we go back to is up to us, and how we advance from one sphere to another and from one level to another is up to us. So we're not judged. There's no hell. But if you do naughty, nasty, horrible things, you can end up in the lower spheres, because the other side is basically about.
My guest today is Barry Eaton. And you guys, I'm super excited because I have had Barry's book on my shelf since 2012. He wrote it in 2011. And this was the kind of the beginning of my spiritual journey after I lost my very significant loved one who passed away that year. And his book is called Afterlife, Uncovering the Secrets of Life After Death. But Barry is so much more than an author. He is a qualified psychic, medium, astrologer, past life regressionist, and he studied at the acclaimed Arthur Findlay College. And today we are going to dive in and have some very deep conversations. He even has his own radio show, Radio Out There. So, Barry, calling in from Australia, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Laurie, it's lovely to be with you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, this is good. I'm really excited. I've been so excited about this conversation because, when you have books on your shelf that you've read and that have influenced you, it's a blessing to be able to get to have a conversation with somebody who wrote
Look,
one of those.
totally, absolutely. I feel the same way. And I've been lucky enough to interview several authors and myself, and they've influenced my life. So to have them as a guest on the program, I know how you feel. It's wonderful, isn't it?
It really,
Well, I
it
hope it's
really is.
wonderful.
It really is. So I'm not sure where to start. I think let's start with what your book did for me. So after I lost my passed away loved one, Mark, he
Mm.
began sending me signs. So I knew he was still there. He was also my greatest spiritual teacher. And so we had so many different conversations, but he died completely suddenly of a heart attack at the age of 46. It was unexpected. And
Mm.
nobody expects to lose somebody that young
Mm.
who's seemingly healthy. But your book, Afterlife, really helped me because one of the chapters in here that I think is so important is that fear of death. And you talk about that. And I think a lot of people who tune into channels like mine, where I focus on the subject of near death experiences, really are curious and they're searching because they probably have also found or experienced a profound loss. So I guess I would ask you first, what can you tell everybody who's watching about the process of losing a loved one? And why did you write this book?
Oh, well, that covers a lot of territory. Well, to start off with, we don't lose anybody. They're just in a different area. They've gone back to where we all belong, or the afterlife, paradise, heaven, the other side, whatever. Because we are here as visitors to this world. We're here as a soul energy having a human body to have a human experience. So once that experience is over, we go home again. Home is not here. And we don't lose anybody. So don't feel as if you have. And that was why I was inspired from the other side and to write a book about the afterlife to help take that fear out of so-called death, and also to help people realize that, like yourself, we can still be in contact and we never, ever lose anybody. But as for writing it, boy, if you've got about 45 minutes, I can let you
We've
know.
got all night. We've got all night.
All night. Oh, okay. Well, over here it's lunchtime. So, uh, look, it all started a long time ago. I started off life as an actor, and then a radio and TV presenter, an anchor in America. I've been a producer, all sorts of things. Then I had a little experience called divorce, and that opened
Mm,
up my whole life. I went off to study astrology, and then that opened up into clairvoyant work. And then I met another wonderful lady who I was told by automatic writing 6 months before we met that she would come into my life, described her everything. She came into my life. I was told that we would only have a short time together. And that's what happened. We were only together for 4 years. But in that time, amazing things happened. Her name is Judy. She passed over in 1997.
Okay.
And shortly after that, we started being in contact, and all my medium abilities opened up. And she helped me from the other side. But after a while, she kept on saying to me, Barry, you have to write a book. I said, yeah, okay, Judy, I'll write a book. No, you must write a book. Yeah, I'm doing this. I'm trying to do this. At the time, I was an exec producer of a large theatrical production and doing all my spiritual work at the same time. I've been able to combine both. And that's what the wonderful thing is. And I believe that one led to the other. Anyway, after a while, I started my own radio program online, radio out there. And one of my wonderful guests was a medium, Bob Murray from Canada. Passed over now, unfortunately.
Okay.
But we had wonderful times. Anyway, one day, before we started to do our chat on radio, he said to me, hey, Barry, he said, I keep getting these messages from this girl on the other side. Do you know a Judy? And I said, yes. And he said, well, she keeps on telling me to give you that message. Hey, Barry, when are you going to write that book? So I thought, oh, God, I'm being nagged from spirit now. So I did. I set out to write that book. Well, it started off something very different, but I had a wonderful publisher, Maggie Hamilton, and Maggie said, well, unfortunately, the book you wrote, which was like a spiritual guide 101, too many things, but Spirit want you to write a book about life after death, taking the fear out of life after death. And that's what it's all about. Get rid of that fear. And I was told, you are one of many people all around the world who have been selected to help get the fear out of people's lives.
It
So would you,
worked.
it worked, yeah. And so she said, would you be prepared to write a book about the afterlife? Well, having never published a book before, I wasn't going to say, no, take that one or leave it. I said, no. Oh, I'd love to write a book about the afterlife. So I did. And I got a
So
lot of help from the other side.
I was just
Huge.
going to ask you, I was going to ask you how, because you were already doing the automatic writing. So do you get downloads? Do you hear spirit kind of come through and then they were kind of almost transcribing parts of the book for you?
Well, you're spot on there, Laurie, because what happened when I started to write the Afterlife book was I connected with uh, a very highly advanced spirit on the other side who was appointed to help me to write the book. And I
Do you
talked
know who
about
the
him.
spirit was specifically? Like, is it somebody that we would recognize in this earth plane?
Well, we would, but he asked me not to mention his real name,
Okay,
but I
maybe you can tell
refer,
me afterwards.
as long as you don't spill the beans, right? But he's referred to as M, and he asked if I just called him M, which I did. So M was there. Quite often I'd be writing away, and all of a sudden my fingers going across the keyboard, and I'm thinking, well, where did that come from? Wow, did I really write that? And that was what happened. So I was given a tremendous amount of help from the other side. And I did a lot of regressions and I connected with other people in spirit. I was able to connect with a wonderful former film writer and producer. And his name is John. And John became my spokesspirit on the other side, John Deanwell. And he was part of a group of about 100 spirits, and they all came together at various times. And he was I called him my spoke spirit, and he was the one who they spoke through. So they gave me tremendous advice for both my first book, Afterlife, and then the sequel, which is No Goodbyes. So my medium skills developed all this time, Laurie. So it's all part of what I believe was my contract in this lifetime. And we all have them.
Wow.
We
Barry,
all
I
have
love
them.
that so much. I love so many things about that. So it's interesting. When I lost my pass away loved one, he did come
Mm.
to me in a dream 2 years after. and I had collected all of these signs from him. And in the dream, it was very simple. And he said to me, I'm most proud of our story. And the next day, a chapter began to be dictated to me. It wasn't coming from me. And so when I edited my book, I
Yeah.
would not let my editor change little blocks that I knew were not from me. So I'm curious.
Yeah.
You had a regular publisher, and for people who don't know, you don't really own your book. Whoever is publishing it, they have editors, and the editing process can be pretty brutal sometimes. Did you actually put parameters in to keep them from changing some of these things that you knew had been divinely orchestrated and dictated from the other side?
Well, I think I must have been lucky, Laurie, because the editors, yes, you're right, they do a lot of work, a lot of help. Take this chapter, move it there, and do this stuff. But I was not at any stage told to change what was written by my guide M.
Well,
Never.
then the writing must have been spectacular because that's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, they may have changed a few words, a bit of grammar here and there or whatever, but overall, no, there were no changes whatsoever.
Wow. So this book really was truly dictated in large part from the other side for the people that are watching that want to pick up something that, comes from a higher place.
Well, I wouldn't say a large part, but a significant part,
Okay.
because a lot of it is my own
Of course, of
take on
course.
things.
Sure.
But the part that I'm quoting from M and also from John and his spirit guides, or his spirit group, I should say, they are pretty much as they were dictated to me.
So I've
Mm,
heard, with one of the things I've talked about a lot on this show is that people that are watching have a lot of help and a lot of guidance on the other side. And I've
mm.
talked about how they can connect to their different spirit guides, and they can also use people on the other side who they know are deceased that had certain talents and ask them to come in. But never ever have I heard somebody say that they had 100 guides gathered and helping. Do you think that's unusual, Barry, or do you think that happens frequently on the other side? There's not a limitation, I guess, that we put on with our human mind parameters, right?
Yeah. Well, Laurie, it's not unique, but there have been quite a few people over the years who have brought through information from a collective group of spirits. So I'm not the only one. I found that out later. I thought I was very special at first, but I did. Oh, no, I forget that. So, but no, there are quite a few well-known people who have channeled and also done other things like that. They've brought through people and they've been helped from the other side by a group. I mean, the group of people that John was a spokesspirit for, over 100, but they included my late partner, Judy. I also found out my father, on this life, my current life, he was part of the group as well because he's also working with spirit on the other side. And while he wasn't into this sort of thing in this lifetime, he certainly has done a lot on the other side since he's left us. So they were part of it, but what they did was they contributed and they spoke through because on the other side, there's no such thing as a voice box because we all communicate with thought and mind and vision and knowing. So you asked before how it came through. Well, yes, I get thoughts, I get visions, I just get knowing. I did a reading for somebody earlier this week, and I connected. Her mother came to us. We were talking during the reading, and her mother was able to give me images. One of them was a river, so that meant something totally to the person because we were able to then verify that her mother actually, at an earlier time in her life, a river was an important part. But you can't just rely on everything that may or may not come to you. You have to be able to focus yourself. And what I do is beforehand, and I think just about every medium or clairvoyant or psychic does, we do a very deep meditation and we open ourselves up to spirit. I connect with my guide. I connect with the other side. I ask for help. I connect with angels because angels are out there. They are helping us all the time. In fact, I'll tell you a little story. a few minutes ago, as we started, the inevitable leaf blower started outside my front window here. I thought, oh, God. So I said, while you were talking, I sent a little message, hey, my angels, can you please get this person to shut up? And they did. It only just started. Normally it goes on for about 10 minutes. So you can ask your angels for a bit of help, whether it's a leaf blower or whether it's a bit of help, advice, guidance, whatever. But they are there for us. So why not ask for their help?
I love that. I think that's super powerful, right?
Well, but I'm not special. We all have that ability. There we are.
We definitely do. So I'm curious, when you were writing your book,
Mm.
what information were you given that you didn't know that surprised even you?
Oh, that's a big call. Um, well, I knew about the afterlife. I knew that it was the other side because I always believed that um, as a former actor, then what we do as an actor is an agent we train, and then an agent gets us a part in a show. It might be a stage show, it might be a film, it might be a TV show, whatever. The end of that, we have a character. We get our costume, we have our lines, we're part of a production. At the end of that, we take the costume off, take the makeup off, and then we go away and wait for the next role to come up. Now, life is like that. We're all actors on the stage here on Earth. We're all waiting for our next role. And that's why we have so many past lives. So knowing the fact that we can have all these lives and knowing the fact that we are not going to just be dumped off into some horrible pit of blackness or a devil prodding us with a pitchfork or something, that will depend on our life, what we do. We're here to learn. But uh, what we do in our life, if we help others, we do the right sort of thing, we do our best, whatever, yeah, that's where we go back to in the afterlife each time. But if we're a very nasty person, if we're a Hitler or a Stalin or drug people or murderers or rapists or mad megalomaniacs, whatever, then we go back to an appropriate place on the other side. So that's sort of putting it in a bit of a nutshell there, but we are on a journey, and that is it. But the journey started many thousands of years ago for most of us. There are new spirits coming through all the time, new souls, but we are here. The people who are doing this sort of work, yourself included, we've been here for quite some time in many different forms. Have I got too
Yeah.
far off the mark here?
No, completely. You're speaking my language, of course. So, your medium abilities, you said, increased after Judy left and went to the other side and they opened up. So, will
Yeah.
you talk a little bit about how that works for you and how you work with people to help them with your medium abilities?
Okay. I might just preface that by telling you how my medium abilities did open with Judy, because a
Okay.
few months after she passed, um, a very good medium had helped us out because I'd started my own program by that time, and this Lady Ruth came on to, and she helped me get through the entire funeral process because I had to stand up there and do the obituary, which was very hard. Anyway, she rang me about 3 months later and said, Barry, would you like to talk to Judy? I said, well, yes, I'd love to, but I thought it was too soon. She said, no, come over and we'll get you talking. So I did. I arrived there. She said, here's Ruth standing at the door, tapping her foot sort of thing, saying, where are you? You're late. I said, oh, I'm sorry, I must have missed time. She says, come on, there's a whole lot of people in there waiting for you. I thought, there's what? A whole lot of people in there? I didn't come here to give a performance. Um, I got an audience. So I sort of went through the door thinking, what are all these people doing here? I couldn't see a soul in there, but the room was full of souls. My parents were there, my friends, family, people who passed over. Judy had got a little collection of people just to say Happy Christmas because it was just a week or two before Christmas. And after that, we were given permission to be able to develop our medium skills. And that went on and gradually developed. You have to trust. You have to trust that a thought comes through, a feeling, a message. Sometimes you're wrong. Not everybody's right all the time, obviously. But when it does come through, you must trust. And that's what I learned to do. And then I eventually went over in 2012 over to Arthur Finlay College in Britain and did an advanced live-in course there. And that helped me tremendously. So it's all part of a process, Laurie, but have our own unique path. And that's what it's all about. But don't go saying, oh, I must do the same as so-and-so. I mean, Michael Newton inspired me a lot because actually Judy told me to read Michael Newton's books.
Oh, I love that you brought this up. I have a conversation about Michael Newton at least once a week because I
Oh,
interview 3 to 4 people. I can't even tell you how many times he comes up. I wish he were alive so I could interview him, and probably so do you.
well, funnily enough, I have a tape of his on my radio program playing right now. But I tried to contact Michael back in about 2015, and I was told, no, he doesn't do interviews anymore. But they put me onto a bloke called Peter Smith. And Peter turned out to live in Melbourne, and he was the president of the Michael Newton Institute. So I rang Pete and we clicked just like that. We have since become so close. We know we have a soul contact. We've worked together. He helped me with my last book that I wrote, Past Lives Unveiled, and Peter's there all the time. And I was asked as a wonderful honor to be able to do the tribute program for Michael Newton when he passed over in 2016. So I did that for the whole
Oh,
institute.
that's so wonderful. I have his book also. I can actually see it right from where I'm sitting, Journey of Souls. For the people that aren't watching or that
Mm,
aren't are familiar with Michael Newton, he was really early in the game talking about all of these concepts that
mm,
were in no way, shape, or form mainstream at all, and with such depth.
yeah. Mm. Well, that's right, because the little clip that I'm using on my show this week is how he started with past lives. It was a silly. He regressed this person and they went into a past life in the First World War, funnily enough, because that's where I had also my last life. Anyway, he checked it all out. He still was not quite sure about it all, checked it out. He found out this person was real. He's got his a number in the army, checked out his name, everything. And from that moment on, Michael was totally convinced. He went on to regress some 8,500 people because he was a psychologist before that. And then he went on, and that opened up his whole life and career. And he went on to write books like Journey of Souls, Destiny of Souls, Life Between Lives, and then went on and on. So
I
then
have all
I've
3
still
of
been an
those.
associate. Have you read the others?
I have all 3 of those books
I
right now
should
on my
hope so.
bookshelf.
They're wonderful, aren't they?
Yes, amazing. I love that we have that connection, and I love how often he comes up.
It's just the fact that we did a special program last year, and there was a wonderful other lady from the Michael Newton Institute, and they came through on a special program I did, and Michael Newton also came through from the other side and told us that we have problems right now in our life because we are too materialistic. We have to get away from the greed and the whole materialism side of things. That is the secret for us to move on right now. Now, Michael put that message over from the other side. So
Okay, so
that's
that's the secret you said to maneuver right now. So how do people go about changing that?
becoming more spiritual,
So if they're
embracing
watching this
love.
program,
There you are. But we have to embrace love and not greed and control and power. You have a look at all the mad power brokers out there right now.
Mhm,
They just want more and more and more money. They're
mhm,
billionaires, but that's not enough. They want more. They want more control. We have to move away from that. We have to be less divided, have a lot more love, and Yeah, we all have to pay the rent. We all have to buy food. We all have to drive a car or whatever. But we don't have to make it our whole life. And that was what Michael was saying. Once we can embrace that, we can't change the world from the big pharma and the big corporate companies and that sort of thing, but we can, as individuals, lead the kind of life that will eventually have its impact. And that's
Hmm.
what he was putting across.
So
Mm.
you mentioned a little while ago, but that there are some new souls that are here in Earth, but that
Mm.
many are have had many lots and lots of different incarnations. So can you tell us a little bit about your experience being a past life regressionist?
Whoa, that's an interesting one because Pete Smith, I told you about before, Pete really was a wonderful past life therapist and ran programs and all sorts of things. I've been doing it for a while, but Pete put me through a whole intense course, so I was able to develop even more. The thing is that when we come back from each lifetime, we bring back karma with us. Now, we all know about karma, and Hollywood makes a big deal of it and whatever, but we do bring back unresolved issues for our own development. And we also come back to help other people with some of their issues because they're bringing karma back. And you and I might be helping each other in a way we don't even think about, like
Oh, I
working
love
out.
that. I
Yeah,
love
who
that.
knows?
Well, before we
But
move on, we explain to people from your point of view and your understanding and connection with the other side, what is karma from your perspective?
well, I think, as I said before, it is unresolved issues. Now, for instance, I talked about my divorce. Well, I've had two of them actually, but we won't go into that. But I found out later from when Judy and I had an Akashic record reading, and this marvelous Indian Akashic record expert was in Australia, and he was able to, just from the birth date, nothing else, just the birth day of both of my wives, he was able to describe them and also tell me what karmic issues I had come back to work out with both of them.
Do you mind
And
sharing what that was?
um, one of them had uh, caused my death in a previous life. So that karma had to be resolved. And the other one, I had created a lot of harm to her in a life that we had in ancient Egypt. And I didn't kill her, but there was a lot of unresolved karma. So he came back and he said, he described both of them. And he said, now you are divorced and you're able to move on in your lifetime to be able to lead a far more spiritual life. And because you have balanced your karma. Now, that was my personal instance. But we come back, we may have really done terrible things to somebody, or something may have happened that we can help them because of the things that they have done, that we're involved. Karma is essentially balance. We are balancing. It's not revenge. It's not, well, you did that, so it's going to happen to you. That will happen sometimes, but it's balance. And that is the most important thing.
Cause and effect.
Cause and effect.
Cause and effect. I love it. Thank you for saying that. I'm really glad because I think that sometimes I hear people who are spiritual talk about karma in the way that people who are religious talk about a heaven and a hell. And it's
Mm.
truly not that way. It's a cause and effect.
Mm.
And so, what happens, Barry, if we are able to balance our karma in a lifetime? What happens then with those souls? Do they not have to incarnate together again?
Well, every story is unique, and some of them may not have to come back. Some of them may want to come back. But we don't necessarily resolve every single bit of karma. But life on earth is basically about learning, about the evolution of the soul. And that's what it's all about. So once our soul is evolved to the point that we don't have to come back here, well, we can move on to other things. We can move on to other worlds because there's a lot of life out there, despite what some people might say, we are the center of the universe. So forget it. There's the universe and the multiverses are teeming with life forms. And a lot of people here And you and I are probably one of them. We have had lives on other worlds as part of our background.
Yeah,
So,
I'm sure of that.
yeah. So the evolution of the soul is what it's all about. And once we can not have to come back, then that's up to us. But the life we lead now helps us to where we go back to. The afterlife is not one great big open barn somewhere. It's many different levels and many different spheres within each level. And where we go back to is up to us, and how we advance from one sphere to another and from one level to another is up to us. So we're not judged. There's no hell. But if you do naughty, nasty, horrible things, you can end up in the lower spheres, and you're helped. You're not prodded with some kind of demon with a fire fork in his hand. No, you are helped, because that is what it's all about. Because the other side is basically about love,
Absolutely.
learning, and advancing.
Yes, I very much agree with that.
Good.
So you mentioned a term that I don't know that everybody listening is familiar with, and that is multiverse. This is a
Mm.
pretty deep, complex subject to talk about with human words. But what is your understanding of the multiverse and how it works?
Well, it's not only a multiverse. I mean, we talk about the universe, but there are universes. There are many, many different universes, and they operate in different dimensions. Because the afterlife, as we know it, is not a lovely big place out there with clouds and people wandering around with harps and then, there's none of that rubbish. No, the afterlife is another dimension where we live. And also, once we start getting into the quantum area, and this is where we start to get really complex, there are universes within universes and parallel universes. And we could be operating, having this conversation in another universe right now.
Yes,
And
I
we
truly
start,
believe that just from the standpoint of having been on the other side and experienced my soul, the higher self is so powerful. And this is part of why I do this show. I want people to understand the power of who they are. So, what
mm,
is your experience of the power of our soul? What does that mean to you?
the power of our soul. Well, the power of our soul is essentially because we are all part of Source. We all come from the one source to create a source. Call it God, call it whatever. Something had to create the universe. Something had to create it. And God is not an old man sitting up there in a chair with a long white beard and ready to chuck a pitchfork somewhere. No, that's Zeus. That's Jupiter. All those images. I did a very deep meditation years ago and connected with Source. And I've actually written a whole series. It's a book maybe I should try and get published, but I connected and got a lot of feedback from Source. And I've never talked about a lot of it, but basically, Source is energy. And I was shown a boiling sea of energy. And that is what I was connecting with. And I was told that we are like a drop from that ocean of energy. And when it's time for us to go back, we've had all the experiences because Source is experiencing through us. And we're all part of the overall multiverse experience. And once we've done our job, we've evolved as far as we can, made all the mistakes, done all the learning and all the development, and eventually gone from level to level to level to level, and who knows how long that takes, we then are embraced back into Source. And a little drop of energy pops back into the ocean, and you are back as part of Source once again. That's what I was told.
Wow. And I've heard that as well. I think that there's a lot of truth to that.
Mm.
Can you
So
share anything else with the audience that you learned when you were having these conversations with Source?
this was part of the book that I wrote back in 2009
It
that
was a little
eventually
while
came out
ago.
as Afterlife, because that was what they didn't want. And Afterlife was just part of that book. The name of the book was something that I was given as one of these wonderful pearls of wisdom. And the name of the book was The Road to Perfection is Full of Potholes.
That's great.
I had a lot of that, a lot of that. And sources out there, it's inside us because we are part of it. We can connect. We can do it through meditation. We can do it through many different ways by opening ourselves. And that's what we talked about before, getting away from just the material side of life. Yeah, we have to pay the bills, but there's a part of our life that we must embrace spirituality. I'm not talking about religion because there's no religion in the afterlife. No religion. That's part of our earthly journey. In fact, funny thing is, just before we came on, I thought, gee, I haven't read Afterlife for a while. So I started leafing through my copy. Now, here's my author's copy, and that, whoops, I can't
There
see
you go.
it.
Pull it back towards you.
Oh,
There
there.
you go.
Now
Pull it. You
that's
have to
my,
put it in front of your body, otherwise the background blocks it out.
right.
There you go. Yes.
That's the Australian version of it. Well, that was my author's copy. The very first, that was my birthday present in 2010. My Christmas present, I should say, 2010. And I hadn't read it for a while. I glanced at it. But from an hour before we started talking, Laurie, I just opened it up. I think the Spirit wanted me to. I put out a little message. What will we talk about in this interview today with Laurie? And they said, yeah. So go and read the book. So I did. And gee, this is not bad, this book. There's
I love that.
a lot of information. Well, I don't want to say too much, but it is a bestseller. So that,
Yes,
and
it
that,
is a bestseller.
and that's what Spirit wanted. And that was why I was told to write it. I'm not patting myself on the back because I got so much help from so many people, but that's what they wanted. So having read all that, there's just so much out there. So much to learn, so much to embrace, but we have to be open for it. And that's what I think.
I love it. So when I introduced you,
Hmm.
I explained to the audience that you are a psychic and a medium, which we talked about. I talked about your past life regressions, but I didn't talk about the astrology part. And I really have never talked to anybody on this show who has a background in, astrology. So will you explain a little bit about what you do and how that works and how you feel it connects to our earthly incarnation?
Okay. Well, I was inspired to do astrology. At the time, I was running a production company and I was on radio, I was on TV. This was back in 1991. So I did it in my diploma course because I was urged to it by Spirit. I found out later. And that opened up. And astrology is like a blueprint. Forget all those little 2 or 3 line ones you read in a newspaper or a magazine. That's just fun. Okay. But in fact, I actually did a magazine column for a while, but anyway, we won't talk about that. But astrology, if I got your day, day, month, and year of birth and the time, I'm not going to ask you on here, but if I got that and your place of birth, I could come up with an hour and a half chat with you to tell you things about yourself that you would not imagine that anybody else would know. And where you are, why you're here, your purpose of your life, your talents, your abilities, and your challenges, everything like that. So astrology is absolutely a blueprint of our life. And then
So do you still
that
do
is
these
our,
readings with people?
yeah, all the time.
You do.
Hmm.
So I would imagine if you just need that information, do you just put that together, or are you looking things up and seeing where everything aligns, or are
Oh,
you
yeah.
more getting stuff from spirit and connecting that way?
No, if I wanted to do your chart, say you contact me, and I don't know who Laurie is. Laurie says, I want to have my chart done. So I say, all right, Laurie, will you tell me the date and time of your birth? Now, if you
Okay.
don't know the time, I have a way of working it out. So then I take all that information and I do about 2 to 3 hours of research and I come up with all the relevant information about your background, who you are, where you are, what you're doing now, and also a look at what is coming up in your life. and to help you to help yourself. And that's what it's all about. I do not go out there and tell you people what to do. I help people to understand who they are, because if we don't know who we are, we don't know where we're going. If we don't know where we're going, we won't know when we get there.
So, Barry, if somebody contacts you and they give you all this information, you do the research, and then do you do a call like this and present that to
Yeah.
them, or is it a written form? How do you do it?
Now, I have been doing it through my radio setup here, but now I do it on Zoom. So, yeah, I do that.
Nice.
So I have clients in America and Britain, Australia, naturally. But yeah, it doesn't matter. Well, here you are. Here you are in the States. Here I am in Australia. We're talking.
Right. Yeah, I love the technology. I love this time right now on Earth where we have access to so much information. And I think that channels like this give everybody a platform to share
Mm.
this knowledge that you've been gathering for years and years. And before this, you really only could share it in a format like this. But now we get to do these videos and they get to connect with you as the person. They get to feel the emotion, they get to feel your energy, and they learn something. And these, because of these conversations, the earth is waking up. People are
Mm.
waking up to who they are. It's helping them, I feel like, to remember who they are. So I think that this is a special time. People have referred to this as the Great Awakening. What are your thoughts about what's going on right now with humanity as this video is being recorded in 2024?
Well, yeah, we are in a time of transformation. There's no doubt about that. Astrologically, I can talk to you about that. And you're going to see some very big changes as of next year. But because
Next year is in
astrology,
2025, you mean?
yeah,
Okay.
astrology is not only personal astrology, it's also what we call mundane astrology. Now, I've been delving into this for some time now, and I have a program on radio out there right now with astrology as one part and Michael Newton as the other part. How about that?
Oh,
But
how cool. I love it.
yeah, so the program is all about the eclipse that we just had. Fantastic.
Which was,
But
as we're recording, it was 2 days ago
that's right,
in Earth time right now, because these
in Earth
videos
time.
live in perpetuity, right?
So we talked about that and the effects and where it's going, because an eclipse is just a new beginning, whether it's a personal beginning or a beginning for other people, for other aspects of life. And we have another big getting together of the planets, two planets, Jupiter and Uranus, are coming together in a conjunction. That's where they sit at the same degree in the sky, even though they might billions of miles apart. But they are coming together and they will have a huge impact. And it's on the 20th of April. I don't know when it goes to where, but that will have happened. So that will have a very big impact. And I talk about that as well. So it's not only the personal aspect, Laurie, of what we can learn from astrology, but also the whole effect on the world, on where we're going, on politics, on wars, on the dreadful things going on in the Middle East right now. All of those things, we are learning about what is happening. I also have an astrologer who comes on my program every year at the beginning of the year, sets the scene, and he has forecast the last three presidential elections spot on.
Wow. Well, can you give us a little bit of a glimpse
Well,
of,
I'm
you
not going
said,
into politics, by the way.
no, no, I don't care about politics at all. Well, I care more about what's going on in the world. And you
Yeah.
said
Well,
that
unfortunately, that's politics sometimes.
well, yeah, I don't know. Some of us just don't get involved. I feel like it
Ooh.
lowers my vibration too much. I cannot play in that arena. But I am curious to know what you feel like is a big event that's coming that astrology is giving you a glimpse for 25.
Okay. The planet Pluto, and some astronomers say, oh, it's not a planet. Don't say that to an astrologer. Pluto, all the planets have archetypes. Now, Pluto was the god of the underworld, and we associate the planet Pluto with the sign of Scorpio. But Scorpio is all about transformation, and Pluto is and transformation means the death of the old for the birth of the new. So we're leaving something behind. And that is what's happening. Now, Pluto takes 248 years to go all around the sun, a whole journey. And it's now popping out of Capricorn, where it's been for the last 20 years or something. And that is, Capricorn's all about control, authority, all of that stuff. It's going into the next sign, which is Aquarius. Now, it's popped in there briefly at the moment. So we're seeing a little bit of what happens when it goes into Aquarius. Now, it started off 248 years ago, and that was the time of the French Revolution, the Industrial Revolution. It was the aftermath of the American Revolution, and so on. So it's people power, people taking back. Also development. There was a huge development in printing, cotton presses and things like that, the Industrial Revolution. So we're going to see, when Pluto goes into Aquarius full time at the end of January, for the next 20 years, we're going to see a lot more people power. Let's hope we don't have another French Revolution, because we haven't got enough guillotines. But we are looking at technical development. Now, AI is the big thing at the moment. So
Right.
we can expect a lot more about AI. And there's a lot of people, I've done a program about this as well, because
You
there's
have? Yeah,
oh
you
yeah,
did a program on your radio show about this?
oh yeah. Because my book Afterlife was ripped off by AI, and an illegal recording was put out there. No permission from me or my publisher. It was put out there, and 12,500 people downloaded it. There were potentially 12,500 people who might have read my book, but instead they had this dreadful robot narrator. And that, a lot of creative people are very worried at the moment. Writers, musicians, actors, artists, all sorts of people, as well as people. Look, the next election after this, next presidential election after this, we could see images of the candidates that had nothing to do with the real person, but you would swear that they're going to be that person, putting out all sorts of information. AI has to be developed and controlled. And that is what we're going to have to learn to do. And that is what Pluto is telling us: the death of the old for the birth of the new, and a lot more people power, a lot more humanity. So let's hope humanity is able to take over from the dreadful control and authority that we've been having for so many years now, where we're being told what to do. Now, I don't want to go into this. I could, but I won't, because there are too many people out there trying to tell us what to do, and you can't say that. Oh, no, can't say that's misinformation. Why is it misinformation? Because it just disagrees with the narrative. Oh, no, you can't disagree with the narrative. Oh, no. So yeah, I had a program cancelled because of that. I had it up
Hmm.
online, taken down because they didn't like what I said.
Hmm.
The last time that happened was in Germany, about 1933. But what happened then? So,
Wow.
so there we are. I hope I haven't gone on too much there. We are
Oh,
in for
no, I think
very
this is
big.
fascinating. I'm going to ask you one more question about astrology, and then I'll let you tell us where everybody can find you. Mercury is in retrograde right now. So, what
Mhm.
can you tell us about what to expect while that's happening? Because it's a little bit of a long process, I think.
3 weeks.
It's only 3 weeks.
Yeah, but it happens at least three times a year. Now, what happens is it retrograde just means that it appears to be going backwards in the sky. It's not. It's just the orbital patterns that we have with the Sun, Mercury, and Earth. So what happens is Mercury we associate with communication, and Mercury was the messenger of the gods. You remember the little guy with the wings on his helmet, the wings on his feet, fluttering around everywhere? He was the messenger. So we associate Mercury with communications. Now, when he goes retrograde, communications can be upset. Some people it affects more than others. Mercury is associated also with the sign of Gemini. Now, I have
Oh.
4 planets in Gemini, which means I talk a lot, okay, and write, all that stuff. So when Mercury goes retrograde, it impacts me terribly. I mean, I was sitting listening to some classical music this morning on radio as I'm preparing to chat to you, and all of a sudden it just went off. The radio just closed down all of a sudden, and that can happen. Communication can be interrupted. You have to be careful about what you do. Contracts can be delayed. Meetings can be put off. It can be just annoying. Quite often you'll find that in Mercury retrograde, there'll be a story about how all the signboards at an airport have gone down, and air traffic has been delayed for 24 hours or something like that. Happens so regularly. You'll see the other night, I was watching TV, and all of a sudden it kept on blipping on and off. It never does that in the middle of an interview with somebody. So that's what happens. So we have to be aware that communications can be interrupted and very annoying. But it's a time, because it's retrograde, it's time for us to rethink where we are and what we're doing. So don't rush into things. If you're thinking of going out and buying a new computer, for instance, make sure you have done all your research. Anything starting with RE, retrograde, RE, think about it. Research, redevelopment.
I'm
What
glad
is
you mentioned that because have been in editing hell because my computer is a little bit slow and it takes so much power to produce all of these edits for these videos. And
yeah.
I have actually been really thinking for the last 7 days. I've had 2 conversations about buying a new computer. So I think I will do a little bit more research before I do it.
That's what I was going to say. Do your research, and then you will know when Mercury goes direct towards the end of the month. Then go in and that's when you buy it.
Perfect. I love it. Okay,
Mm.
so if people want to work with you for your
Mm.
medium abilities, for your psychic abilities, as past life regressionist, as an astrologer, or even connect with you with your radio show, how can people work with you, Barry?
Okay, well, my radio show is called Radio Out There, but there's 3 words all joined together. Radio Out There.com. So that's my radio show. Best thing is to email me at radioutthere@gmail.com. Simple.
Okay.
It's all about radio out there. But
Yeah.
radio out there is also on YouTube now too. So there we are. But radio out there at gmail.com. I'll be only too pleased to be in communication with anybody that I might be able to help. So there's no
Oh, I love that. So do you want to leave us with one final message?
one final message. Wow. Yeah. My final message is do not underestimate the power of love.
It's beautiful. I don't know how you could have come up with a better message than that.
Because that is the secret to where we are all heading. Put the hate, put the divide, put everything behind us. Love is the answer.
I love it.
Mm.
Thank you so much. Barry, I am just thrilled to be able to have a conversation with you. This feeds my soul. Thank you so much for what you have done for a very long time to help wake people up to the power of their soul and to help wake up the collective consciousness. I so appreciate you.
Laurie, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you and to all your wonderful audience.
Yes, and thank you so much, everybody, for watching.
Okay, bye now.